So a year ago, around the Oscars, I watched two Best Picture winners that I would call actually bad. Now, there are a lot of Best Picture winners that just don't call my attention at all. A Beautiful Mind, Gladiator, but at their very worst, they're just, the English Patient levels of boring. See, I realized I had seen every Best Picture winner from within my lifetime, except one, Shakespeare in Love, which I had avoided because it seemed like a boring period piece romance movie. And to its credit, it's not boring.
Oh, here we come at last, my lord.
Are you bringing your laundry, woman?
A chaperone, my lady's country cousin. My, but you be a handsome gallant. Just as she said, you may call me Miss Wilhelmina.
This had to be an upset. Like, the clear frontrunner for 98 was Saving Private Ryan. It's a big spectacle movie. It's based on World War II. It's from Steven Spielberg. All things the Academy loves. And it lost to...
My, but you be a handsome gallant.
This movie is bad. It borders on hilariously bad. Until you realize, this won Best Picture in a year where American History X couldn't even get a nomination. It's like something Baz Luhrmann would have written, but without even Baz Luhrmann's fun sense of style. Anyways, then Green Book won Best Picture, and it is also terrible.
I've never had fried chicken in my life.
Who you bullshitting? You people love the fried chicken, the grits, and the collard greens.
Mahershala Ali and Viggo Mortensen are trying, but they just have no chemistry together. Ali's character is a terrible person, and the script sides with him over and over again, even when he's clearly in the wrong. The dialogue sucks, the ending is corny and cheesy and predictable as all hell, and let's not forget, it's from the director of Dumb and Dumber. That's not me cherry-picking some bad movies from his catalog. No, Dumb and Dumber is the second best movie this guy has made. After There's Something About Mary, which is actually good. Let's not forget, he's also the director of Osmosis Jones, Dumb and Dumber 2, Me, Myself, and Irene, and Movie 43. This man has more Oscars than Martin Scorsese, Brian De Palma, Alfred Hitchcock, and Orson Welles combined. In fact, now that I've seen every Best Picture winner from my lifetime, I went through to see how many times I agreed with the Academy. And I found that of the 24 Best Picture winners from within my lifetime, I agreed with none of them. The closest was 2010 with Birdman, which granted, great movie, 10 out of 10 movie. My favorite movie that year was the Lego Movie, but I understand that really isn't a contender for Best Picture, so I am willing to concede this one to the Academy. Except no, I'm not. They didn't even nominate Lego Movie for Best Animated Feature. No points awarded. Moonlight and Shape of Water were nice consolations, since I knew Arrival and Get Out weren't gonna win, but still not my favorite movie of the year. Now, I understand why 12 Years a Slave won. A good movie, absolutely, but personally, I just liked Her better. In fact, personally, I just liked Her, Under the Skin, Prisoners, The Hunt, and Before Midnight better than 12 Years a Slave. But I get it, I'm one man and I have shitty taste in movies. My favorite film is Spaceballs, and I hated Gone with the Wind. So what does the public think? Well, I checked IMDb, and it seems IMDb users agreed with 3 of the last 20 Best Picture winners. In fact, 50% of the highest rated movies of every year don't even get nominated. So I have to ask, why is the Academy so bad at picking Best Picture? Number 1, Academy biases. The Academy is made up of lots and lots of Hollywood types, people who do all types of different jobs in the film industry. That said, they're not that diverse. They're overwhelmingly old white men, and they're also overwhelmingly actors, which is important to keep in mind. Take movies like Inception, Black Swan, and The Social Network. Sure, there are some good performances, but they're hardly the focus of the movie. Nothing I would consider great. Now stack them up next to The King's Speech, a film with 2 juicy roles filled by incredibly talented actors who are given opportunities to just act their hearts out. I mean, it's literally named after a speech. So this just okay film beats out these great films because goddamn, that performance was great. It's also just a big circle jerk, so they really like movies about movies. I mean, I like movies about movies too, but that's because I like meta humor. And you know, they're Americans. It's an industry show. They don't want to promote things from other countries. That's why not a single foreign film has ever won Best Picture. Oh, your favorite movie was like Amelie or Itumama Tambin? Nope. Only America matters.
Every country in the world belongs to America.
They're old, so they like period pieces, nothing modern. Of course, part of that is that they love movies based on true stories, because true story movies are more important somehow. Because, you know, if it's based on an important event, surely the film itself is important. You might say that movies are only important insofar as they have meaning to us personally, and that perhaps the Academy is projecting the importance of these events onto the movies depicting them. And even granted that there is some inherent importance to movies, a movie with an obvious message about the human condition, like, say, Annihilation, might be more important in some sense than, say, a movie about some smart guy with schizophrenia, but you're just not as smart as the Academy. Yes, the Academy would also like you to know they're smarter than you. See, I tend to like fun movies, but to the Academy, fun means dumb. Thus, genre movies, which I love, tend to come up a little short. Of the 92 years the Academy has been doing this, action, horror, and sci-fi combined to have a netted 3 Best Picture winners. That's if you even want to call Silence of the Lamb horror. And yeah, not a single sci-fi film in 92 years. There are more Best Picture winners that feature William Shakespeare cross-dressing than films in the science fiction genre. That stuff's for peasants. Bring us more films based on true stories. These are important. Number 2, for your consideration. Academy voters are busy, important people. Unlike film critics or internet jackasses, they can't go to every single movie. They need someone to tell them which movies to watch. So every year, studios figure out what movies are most likely to win some awards and market the shit out of them in LA. So if your favorite movie of the year was like an indie British horror comedy, well, you're already gonna have a hard time selling horror comedy, but now you've added indie and British. Every part of that is something the Academy does not want. Sorry, you don't get a nomination. No one in the Academy saw your film. This also puts a particular slant against more experimental films. If it tests poorly with audiences, the studio won't waste the money to promote it. And that's how someone like Darren Aronofsky, one of my favorite directors and one of the greatest directors of this generation, ends up with 1 nomination to his name. This is a rather small factor in the grand scheme of themes, but it helps ensure controversial movies get pushed down, with low odds of even being nominated. Which unfortunately brings us to... Number 3. Politics. The Academy Awards wants to appear progressive. The key word in that sentence is appear. See, Hollywood would like you to think they're ahead of the curve, but they're not. They are the curve. They're not gonna embrace a political stance until most of America is on board with it. Gay movies in the 90s? Forget it. Even by 2005, that was a little much for them. And that one was practically a gimme. 2005 was a shit year for films, but you had not one, but two great gay movies. How did you fuck this up? But nowadays, when being gay is socially acceptable, half the nominees are gay movies. Moonlight, Call Me By Your Name, Shape of Water, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite. So let's take the career of someone I would say actually does have some somewhat radical, progressive beliefs, and isn't afraid to wear them out on his sleeves. Mr. Spike Lee. 1989, a number, another summer. Spike Lee drops Do the Right Thing, one of the most highly praised movies of all time, a film that has a lot to say about race relations. Not even Best Picture nominated, despite a prominent For Your Consideration campaign. To be fair, there are probably a few reasons for that. The plot is pretty loose and non-traditional in structure, it's a wild, stylized film, and that might be misconstrued as fun, but it ends with a riot and a cop killing an unarmed black teenager. Not great optics. Okay, let's try again. Malcolm X. A long-winded historical drama with a juicy lead role for talented actor Denzel Washington, giving, in my opinion, one of his career best performances. That ought to get him, except this person had some pretty radical ideas and used violence as a political tactic, and spoilers if you're unfamiliar with the life of Malcolm X, he got assassinated for his ideas. The Academy likes happy endings where the black man and the white man learn to work together and racism doesn't exist anymore. We're down for a movie about a peaceful protest and a man who preached nonviolence, even if it's boring as all fuck. Oh, and leave out the part where that guy also got assassinated. So what does get Spike Lee some Oscars? Black Klansman. Another historical drama, but this time, the cops are the good guys. Points there. And there's a clear divide. We know who's good and who's racist. None of this ambiguous, do unjust power structures justify violence against them. And some of the good guys are even white. Happy ending, the Klan is defeated, and they even find time to take shots at an already unpopular president.
Did you guys know Trump
is a bad president? Even then, that film lost out to what Lee disparagingly called Driving Miss Daisy 2. Sorry, Spike, that film flies a little too close to addressing actual problems. We don't want to address systemic issues, because then we would have to fix systemic issues, and that sounds like a lot of work. We just want to sit around and pat each other on the back because we personally ended racism. That's why a film that otherwise checks all the boxes, say for example, a historical drama with a big lead role that was filled out so well the performer won Best Actor about something socially progressive like America's first openly gay senator who had a huge hand in advancing LGBT rights, can still lose out. See, this film casts a real negative light on law enforcement and doesn't rule out rioting as a political tactic. And you know, this guy also got assassinated.
Do you guys think maybe there's a history of people advocating for civil rights in our country getting assassinated? Nah, I'm sure it's a coincidence.
Basically what I'm saying is, the Academy is so white, milk is too spicy for them. So a film that, by all accounts, probably should have won Best Picture, lost out to a perfectly average, bland, uncontroversial film. Which brings me to my next point. Number 4, the Academy voting system. This, more than anything, is where the Academy trips up. They don't just vote for their favorites, they rank all the nominees, from the one they think is the most deserving to the one they think is the least deserving. So more contentious films like Milk or Black Swan or whatever may pull in a lot of first place votes, but also a lot of last place votes. On the other hand, Slumdog Millionaire can pull through with mostly a bunch of 3s and 4s. It's a system that rewards mediocrity. You don't have to be the best, just largely unobjectionable. I'm sure there are plenty of Academy voters pulling for films like Milk and Brokeback Mountain and whatever other progressive movies there are. But as long as enough people say they're last place, something that no one found all that great, but also just good enough, can pull ahead. I mentioned systemic oppression in reference to people, but I think this system is set up to discriminate against certain types of movies, namely, anything too fringe for mainstream audiences. The system demands conformity. And fuck, that's just Best Picture. That's not even acknowledging how bad they are at nearly every other category. Brilliant actors get snubbed, they're incredibly biased against actors and directors of foreign movies, and, female directors. Best Animated Feature is practically a Disney Pixar circle jerk. And there's the way they run the show. We're gonna put the editing awards in the commercial breaks because we can't possibly cut the endless sketches and padded out montages of classic films that didn't even win Oscars.
What say you? Am I being too conspiratorial? Is the Oscars actually suppressing different movies? Do you agree with the Oscars more than 3 times in 20 years? Let me know, and if you have some angry comment about how I talked about systemic oppression, don't let me know. And until next time, have a nice day.